13. Beloved. The Jeffersons actors who tragically passed away. 13 beloved stars of The Jeffersons. The sitcom that redefined American television are no longer with us, and their final stories are far more tragic than the laughter they once gave. Behind the glitz of primetime comedy lies heartbreak, loss, and secrets fans never saw on screen. These weren't just actors, they were pioneers who broke barriers in race, class, and culture. What really happened to them, and how should we remember their legacies? Stay with us as we uncover the haunting truths, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the discussion here on Legends of Black Excellence. Sherman Hemsley. Sherman Hemsley's journey from a quiet boy in South Philadelphia to one of television's most unforgettable comedic actors is both inspiring and bittersweet. Born on February 1, 1938, he was raised in a working-class environment where his mother encouraged his early love of performance. Life, however, did not immediately lead him to the stage. Hemsley joined the United States Air Force, serving honorably before taking a steady job at the U.S. Postal Service. By night, he studied acting at the Academy of Dramatic Arts, fueling a dream that many doubted he could reach. His persistence became the foundation of a career that would later alter the history of American sitcoms. His big break came with a guest role on All in the Family, where he played George Jefferson, a character so loud, stubborn, and ambitious that audiences couldn't look away. The role spun off into its own series, The Jeffersons, which ran from 1975 to 1985, lasting 11 seasons with 253 episodes. Hemsley's exaggerated strut, fiery temper, and razor-sharp wit defined the show's rhythm. George Jefferson wasn't just a sitcom dad, he was one of the first black men on television portrayed as wealthy, successful, and unapologetically proud. This shift was groundbreaking, offering viewers a new image of African American life during a period of cultural transition. Off-screen, Sherman Hemsley could not have been more different. While George was bold and brash, Sherman was soft-spoken and private. He never married valued solitude and moved away from the Hollywood spotlight to live quietly in El Paso, Texas. Friends described him as gentle with a deep love for music and peace. In fact, his passion for music led to the release of an R&B album in 1989 called Dance, which revealed yet another side of his creativity. But here's something to think about. Do you believe Sherman's decision to stay so private allowed his legacy to remain larger than life? Or did it leave fans longing to know the man behind George Jefferson? As much as he loved privacy, his influence on entertainment could not be hidden, even after. The Jeffersons ended his guest roles, and rare public appearances showed he still carried the swagger and timing that made George Jefferson iconic. Sadly, on July 24, 2012, Hemsley passed away at the age of 74 from lung cancer. His departure shocked fans, as few had known of his illness. Sherman Hemsley left behind more than laughter. He left behind a symbol of progress. Through George Jefferson, he gave voice to ambition, resilience, and unapologetic pride. His career proved that comedy could be both hilarious and transformative, and every time audiences revisit The Jeffersons, they remember not just a character, but a man whose work changed television forever. Isabel Sanford. Isabel Sanford's story is one of quiet determination that grew into groundbreaking triumph. Born on August 29, 1917 in Harlem, New York, she was the youngest of 7 children and the only one her mother encouraged to pursue her dream of becoming a performer. Life in Harlem during the early 20th century wasn't easy for a young black woman trying to break into entertainment, but Isabel's spirit was unwavering. She began with church plays and local theater, slowly building her confidence and refining her natural stage presence. Her breakthrough came in the late 1960s when she appeared in the Oscar-winning film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, 1967, where she held her own alongside cinematic legends like Sidney Poitier and Katharine Hepburn. That role drew national attention, but her destiny arrived when Norman Lear cast her as Louise Wheezy Jefferson, first appearing in All in the Family, before transitioning to the Jeffersons in 1975. As Wheezy Sanford was the perfect counterpart to Sherman Hemsley's explosive George Jefferson. Calm but firm, nurturing yet unyielding, she embodied the dignity and strength of countless women who held their families together through love and resolve. Her chemistry with Hemsley created one of television's most iconic couples. Week after week, audiences tuned in not just for laughs, but for the sense of authenticity she brought to her role. Her portrayal shattered barriers when she became the first African-American woman to win an Emmy Award for lead actress in a comedy series in 1981. That victory was a cultural milestone signaling a broader recognition of Black women's artistry in mainstream television. Behind the camera, Isabel Sanford was deeply proud of her work, often speaking about the importance of showing a prosperous African-American family on television at a time when stereotypes dominated the screen. She continued acting even after The Jeffersons ended in 1985, making guest appearances on shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and appearing in commercials that kept her connected to fans. Her gentle humor and grace made her a beloved figure in American pop culture. By the early 2000s, her health had declined due to heart disease, yet she remained optimistic and grateful for the career she built. In July 2004, Isabel Sanford passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 86, leaving behind a legacy that still inspires actresses who follow in her footsteps. Isabel Sanford was more than just Wheezy. She was a trailblazer who carried the weight of representation with elegance and courage. Through her work, she redefined what a Black woman could look like on screen: strong, loving, intelligent, and unforgettable. Roxy Roker. Roxy Roker's life and career represent courage, elegance, and a fearless commitment to change the face of American television. Born on August 28, 1929 in Miami, Florida, she grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where she nurtured her love for theater. After earning a degree from Howard University, she immersed herself in stage work, first with community theaters and later with the Negro Ensemble Company, a group dedicated to showcasing Black talent. Her early career revealed her as a performer of subtlety and strength, the kind of actress who carried both dignity and warmth in every role. Her defining moment came when she was cast as Helen Willis in The Jeffersons in 1975. As part of the first interracial married couple featured regularly on a U.S. sitcom opposite Franklin Covers' Tom Willis Roxy, was part of television history. At a time when interracial marriage was still controversial in many parts of America, her role challenged prejudice simply by existing on primetime TV. She portrayed Helen with intelligence, grace, and humor, turning a social statement into a character audiences loved. Week after week, she embodied a woman who was confident in her marriage, her friendships, and her place in society. Off-screen, Roker was remembered for her kindness and dedication to her family. She was also the mother of Lenny Kravitz, the Grammy-winning musician whose artistic drive was inspired by her resilience and discipline. Friends described her as gentle yet determined, always balancing her professional commitments with her devotion to motherhood. Beyond The Jeffersons, Roxy appeared in series such as All in the Family, A Different World, and various stage productions. While she never pursued celebrity status with the same intensity as some of her peers, her impact was deeply felt in the industry. She proved that representation mattered not through speeches or activism alone, but through consistent, authentic performances that resonated in living rooms across America. Sadly, Roxy Roker's life was cut short. In December 1995, she died in Los Angeles at the age of 66 after battling breast cancer. Her passing left fans and colleagues mourning a woman who had given so much to television and cultural progress. Though her career did not always bring her the widespread fame she deserved, her work as Helen Willis remains immortal. Roxy Roker should be remembered not just as an actress, but as a pioneer. She stepped into a role that risked backlash and turned it into an enduring symbol of love, tolerance, and progress. Each rerun of The Jeffersons keeps her legacy alive, a quiet but powerful reminder that change can come through the courage of those willing to stand in the spotlight when it mattered most. Paul Benedict. Paul Benedict was one of those rare actors whose face and mannerisms were instantly recognizable, yet whose private life remained refreshingly grounded. Born on September 17, 1938 in Silver City, New Mexico, Benedict stood out from the very beginning due to a rare condition affecting his pituitary gland. It gave him distinctive facial features and a towering presence, traits that might have discouraged some aspiring performers, but instead became his calling card in Hollywood. He studied theater at Boston University and soon developed into a talented stage actor, where his deep voice and natural timing made him a favorite in both dramatic and comedic roles. His most famous character came in 1975 with the role of Harry Bentley on The Jeffersons. Bentley, the British neighbor of George and Louise Jefferson, was polite, bumbling, and endlessly eccentric. Whether leaning forward with his signature awkward smile or misinterpreting George's fiery insults, Benedict's portrayal was both hilarious and charming. Fans adored his ability to create humor out of cultural misunderstandings and over-the-top politeness. Bentley was the perfect foil to George Jefferson's temper, offering comic relief that balanced the show's sharper edges. Outside of The Jeffersons, Paul Benedict built an impressive career. He appeared in classic films such as The Goodbye Girl, 1977, This Is Spinal Tap, 1984, and The Addams Family, 1991, where his versatility shined. He also directed stage productions and taught acting generously, mentoring young performers who were just beginning their journeys. His love for the theater never waned, and colleagues often described him as deeply creative, generous with his time, and endlessly inventive in his craft. Despite his distinctive appearance, Paul Benedict never allowed himself to be typecast. He was capable of moving fluidly between comedy and drama, always bringing depth to his roles. Off-screen, he was remembered as gentle and private, with a sharp wit that matched his stage performances. Tragically, Benedict passed away in December 2008 at the age of 70 in Massachusetts. The cause was natural, and though his death was quiet, tributes poured in from fans and fellow actors who cherished his contributions. For many, Harry Bentley remains unforgettable, a character who didn't need the spotlight to steal the scene, only a smile and a few awkwardly polite words. Paul Benedict's legacy is that of an actor who transformed what might have been a minor role into a cultural treasure. Through Bentley, he reminded audiences that comedy can be both silly and smart, and that sometimes it's the quirkiest neighbors who leave the deepest mark. Franklin Cover. Franklin Cover may not have been the loudest or most flamboyant member of the Jeffersons cast, but his role carried a quiet power that helped reshape television. Born on November 20, 1928 in Cleveland, Ohio, Cover grew up fascinated with theater. After graduating from Denison University and serving in the U.S. Army, he began his career on stage, appearing in regional theater and Broadway productions. His tall frame, dignified manner, and calm delivery made him a natural for roles that required authority, but it was his leap into television that secured his place in cultural history. In 1975, Cover was cast as Tom Willis' husband to Roxy Roker's Helen Willis. Together, they portrayed the first interracial marriage shown regularly on American primetime sitcoms. At a time when interracial couples still faced stigma in many parts of the country, Tom and Helen's marriage was both groundbreaking and controversial. Yet Cover approached the role not as a political statement, but as an opportunity to show a relationship grounded in humor, affection, and respect. His chemistry with Roker brought authenticity to their characters, and audiences soon embraced them as part of the Jeffersons' extended family. But here's something worth asking. Do you think the lighthearted comedic setting of the Jeffersons made it easier for America to accept such a bold portrayal of an interracial couple compared to a more serious drama? As Tom Willis, Franklin Cover often found himself on the receiving end of George Jefferson's sharp insults. George's fiery temper and Tom's gentle awkwardness created comedy gold. Viewers laughed at the tension, but also saw in Tom a man who handled bigotry with patience and dignity. His role helped humanize interracial families for millions of viewers, softening cultural boundaries through humor. Outside of the Jeffersons cover, enjoyed a steady acting career. He appeared in series such as Who's the Boss? Living Single and Will and Grace, as well as films like Wall Street 1987. Though he never reached the same household recognition as his Jeffersons role colleagues, remembered him as a consummate professional, always prepared and respectful of his craft. In his private life, Cover was known to be thoughtful and modest, far removed from Hollywood glamour. His focus was on his work, not the spotlight, which made him a beloved figure among castmates. Sadly, Franklin Cover passed away on February 5, 2006, in Englewood, New Jersey, at the age of 77, due to pneumonia, while already battling a long illness. Franklin Cover's legacy rests not in flashy fame, but in the quiet revolution he represented. Through Tom Willis, he helped normalize images of love that transcended race, paving the way for more diverse portrayals on television. His work endures as proof that sometimes it's the calmest voices that spark the loudest change. Mike Evans. Mike Evans's career was short in years, but vast in influence, making him one of television's most important yet underrated figures. Born on November 3, 1949 in Salisbury, North Carolina, Evans moved with his family to Los Angeles as a child. Growing up on the West Coast during the 1960s, he studied acting and seized opportunities at a time when roles for young black men were still limited. His persistence paid off when at just 21 years old he was cast as Lionel Jefferson on All in the Family. Lionel, the sharp and good-humored son of George and Louise Jefferson, became a fan favorite almost immediately. Audiences loved the way Evans played the role, bright, charming, and full of wit. He was quick to poke holes in Archie Bunker's prejudices, and just as quick to temper George Jefferson's fiery personality when the family moved into the Jeffersons in 1975. Lionel stood as a voice of balance between generations, a character who represented both tradition and progress. His presence gave the show a youthful energy that made it relatable to younger audiences. Mike Evans's contributions to television extended far beyond his acting. Alongside writer Eric Monti, he co-created Good Times, 1974 to 1979, one of the first sitcoms to depict an African-American family living in a Chicago housing project. The show was groundbreaking in its portrayal of working-class struggles and family resilience, and it introduced audiences to unforgettable characters like J.J. Evans, played by Jimmy Walker. Though Evans's name was less known to the public, his role as a creator shaped the future of black representation on television. During the Jeffersons' long run, Evans left the show for a period, and Damon Evans, no relation, briefly took over the role of Lionel. When Mike returned, audiences welcomed him back, recognizing his unique charisma and natural chemistry with Isabel Sanford and Sherman Hemsley. His ability to deliver humor with intelligence made Lionel more than just a sitcom son. He became a character with depth and authenticity. Tragically, Mike Evans's life was cut short. On December 14, 2006, he passed away at his mother's home in 29 Palms, California, at the age of 57 after battling throat cancer. His death stunned fans who remembered Lionel's easy smile and quick wit, and tributes poured in not only for his acting, but also for his role as a visionary behind Good Times. Mike Evans's legacy is twofold. As the first Lionel Jefferson, he gave audiences a character who was thoughtful, funny, and real. As a co-creator, he helped build a platform that expanded the range of African-American storytelling on television. Though his time in the spotlight was brief, his impact continues to echo through every rerun and every sitcom that followed in his trailblazing footsteps. Zara Cully. Zara Cully's life was a testament to endurance, wit, and the power of experience. Born on January 26, 1892 in Worcester, Massachusetts, she began performing long before television even existed. Known as Mama Cully, she was already a respected figure in theater by the time she reached Hollywood. With a background in vaudeville and stage plays, she developed a commanding presence, a sharp delivery, and an ability to draw laughter with just a single glance or cutting remark. Her most famous role came late in her life when she was cast as Mother Jefferson, George Jefferson's outspoken mother on The Jeffersons. At over 80 years old, Zara Cully stepped into the role and immediately became unforgettable. Unlike many sitcom mothers, Mother Jefferson wasn't sweet or nurturing. She was fiery, judgmental, and often clashed with Louise "Wheezy" Jefferson. Audiences loved her sly comebacks and the way she could put George in his place with a single line. For many fans, her character embodied a generational voice, proud, rooted in tradition, and unafraid to speak her mind. Cully's performance gave the sitcom a sense of depth that went beyond comedy. Her character showed the complexities of family love, the tension, the disagreements, but also the undeniable bonds that hold people together. For an actress who had spent decades fighting for meaningful roles in an industry that often ignored older women, especially women of color, her success was both groundbreaking and deeply deserved. Off-screen, Zara Cully lived a life of resilience. She worked tirelessly as a performer through times when opportunities for Black actresses were scarce and often demeaning. Rather than giving up, she continued to build her craft, teaching, acting, mentoring younger performers, and waiting for the right opportunity. When The Jeffersons came along, it allowed her to bring her years of experience to a role that showcased her razor-sharp comedic instincts. Sadly, Zara Cully's time on the show was short. In February 1978, she passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 86 due to pneumonia complicated by lung cancer. Her death shocked both fans and castmates who felt her absence deeply. Though she appeared in only a portion of the series, her impact was outsized. Every scene she was in sparkled with energy and left a lasting impression. Zara Cully's legacy reminds us that greatness is not measured by the number of years in the spotlight, but by the power of presence. Through Mother Jefferson, she delivered some of the sharpest laughs in sitcom history and gave audiences a character they still remember decades later. Her wit, her authority, and her fearlessness remain immortal in reruns, proving that even late in life, an actor can leave a mark that never fades. Ned Wertheimer. Ned Wertheimer may not have been a household name, but his role as Ralph the Doorman on The Jeffersons turned him into a familiar face for millions of viewers. Born on October 27, 1923 in Buffalo, New York, Wertheimer led a remarkable life even before entering show business. He served as a pilot in the U.S. Navy during World War II, and after the war, he earned a degree from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Though he initially trained for a career in economics, his passion for performance won out, and he soon began pursuing acting in New York's theater scene before transitioning to television and film. His most memorable role arrived in 1975, when he joined The Jeffersons as Ralph Hart, the witty, scheming doorman of the luxury Manhattan high-rise. Though not a central character, Ralph was always present, opening doors, delivering packages, and most famously dropping sly remarks in exchange for tips. His ongoing banter with George Jefferson added humor and gave the show an extra layer of authenticity. Audiences delighted in Ralph's persistence and clever one-liners, recognizing in him the everyday workers who often know more about the tenants than anyone else. Wertheimer's career extended far beyond The Jeffersons. He made appearances on more than 100 television shows, including The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Mork and Mindy Gunsmoke, and Hogan's Heroes. He also appeared in films such as Mary Poppins, 1964, and Disney's The Strongest Man in the World, 1975. His versatility allowed him to switch from comedy to drama with ease, though it was comedy that became his strongest legacy. Off-screen, Wertheimer was described by colleagues as warm, professional, and deeply dedicated to his craft. Unlike Ralph, who was always chasing tips, Wertheimer valued teaching and often mentored younger actors. He was also adventurous, an avid traveler and licensed pilot who embraced life beyond the camera. Tragedy struck in January 2013 when Wertheimer died in California at the age of 89 from complications following a fall in his home several weeks earlier. His passing closed the chapter on a career that lasted more than 5 decades. Though he was rarely the star of the show, his presence was indispensable, adding humor and rhythm that made The Jeffersons one of the most beloved sitcoms of its era. Ned Wertimer's legacy is proof that no role is too small to make history. Through Ralph the Doorman, he became a cultural fixture, reminding audiences that comedy often shines brightest in the smallest of moments. Every time fans rewatch the series and hear Ralph's cheerful tips make me happy, they are reminded of an actor whose craft and charm transformed a supporting role into television gold. Irwin Keyes. Irwin Keyes built a career on playing characters who looked intimidating, but often carried a surprising warmth beneath the surface. Born on March 16, 1952 in New York City, he grew up with a love for performance, earning a theater degree from the State University of New York at New Paltz. From his earliest roles, casting directors noticed his towering physique and distinct facial features, the result of acromegaly, a rare hormonal disorder. Instead of allowing this to hinder his ambitions, Keyes embraced his unique appearance, turning it into his trademark and a pathway to Hollywood. On The Jeffersons, he appeared as Hugo Moilefsky, a friend and occasional bodyguard-type figure whose sheer size contrasted with his gentle manner. Though his role was not central, Hugo quickly became a fan favorite. Viewers enjoyed the way his imposing frame brought energy to scenes, while his comic timing ensured Hugo never felt threatening, only endearing. In many ways, Hugo represented the perfect supporting character, memorable, likable, and capable of changing the dynamic of any scene he entered. But here's something worth asking. Why do you think audiences are so drawn to actors who can flip expectations, appearing fearsome at first glance, but revealing kindness and humor beneath the surface? Outside of The Jeffersons, Irwin Keyes built a prolific career in television and film. He appeared in cult classics like The Warriors 1979, Friday the 13th, 1980, and Rob Zombie's House of 1,000 Corpses, 2003. On television, he made guest appearances on shows such as Married with Children Growing Pains and CSI Crime Scene Investigation. Though often cast as villains, thugs, or eccentric side characters, he always brought a spark that made him unforgettable even in limited screen time. Off-screen, Keyes was the opposite of many of his roles. Friends and colleagues described him as kind-hearted, funny, and generous. He loved attending fan conventions where he spoke warmly with admirers who recognized him from his many appearances. Despite the challenges of acromegaly, he lived with remarkable optimism and never let his condition define him negatively. Sadly, Irwin Keyes' life was cut short when he passed away on July 8, 2015 in Playa del Rey, California at the age of 63 due to complications from his condition. His death left a void among fans of cult cinema and classic sitcoms alike. Tributes poured in highlighting not just his screen presence, but also the kindness he shared with those who knew him personally. Irwin Keyes' legacy is that of a gentle giant whose versatility made him more than just a character actor. He proved that even brief appearances could leave lasting impressions, and his career showed how embracing one's uniqueness can lead to longevity in an often unforgiving industry. Hugo Moilefsky may have been a small part of the Jeffersons, but Irwin Keyes' impact on television and film remains larger than life. Danny Wells. Danny Wells was a versatile actor whose warmth and energy made him beloved by audiences across generations. Born Jack Westelman on April 7, 1941 in Montreal, Canada, he grew up with a passion for performance that eventually led him into the world of television, film, and voice acting. His career spanned over 4 decades, filled with roles that showcased both his comedic timing and his adaptability. On The Jeffersons, Wells played Charlie the bartender, the easygoing owner of Charlie's Bar, where George Jefferson and his friends often gathered. Charlie's Bar was more than just a set piece. It grounded the show outside the luxury high-rise apartment, providing a space where everyday conversations unfolded. Wells infused the character with warmth and relatability, giving fans a sense of camaraderie that balanced the fast-paced humor of the main storylines. His role, though supporting, helped expand the world of the sitcom and reminded audiences that even in a show about wealth and success, ordinary spaces and friendships mattered deeply. Beyond The Jeffersons. Danny Wells had an impressive body of work. He guest-starred in popular television shows such as The Love Boat Murder, She Wrote Heart to Heart, and Columbo. His film credits included appearances in The Last Kiss 2006 and Private Benjamin 1980. Yet for many fans, he was most famously recognized as Luigi in the 1989 children's television program The Super Mario Bros. Super Show. In both live-action and voice segments, Wells gave life to the beloved video game character, endearing himself to an entirely new generation of viewers. His voice work extended to cartoons like Inspector Gadget and Heathcliff, further demonstrating his remarkable range. Off-screen, Wells was known for his enthusiasm and dedication. Colleagues recalled his vibrant spirit and the way he approached every project with professionalism and joy. He had a natural ability to connect with people, whether on set or in voice booths, which translated directly into the authenticity of his characters. Sadly, Danny Wells passed away on November 28, 2013 in Toronto at the age of 72. The cause of death was not publicly disclosed, but tributes from across the industry painted a picture of a man deeply loved and respected. Fans of the Jeffersons remembered Charlie's laughter-filled bar, while children of the late 1980s and 1990s recalled the warmth of Luigi. Few actors managed to touch audiences across such different genres, but Wells did so effortlessly. Danny Wells' legacy lies in his ability to create spaces of comfort and joy, whether through a New York bar or a Saturday morning cartoon. He may not have been the headline star, but his presence left an undeniable imprint on both sitcom history and childhood nostalgia. Vernon Washington. Vernon Washington may not have held the spotlight like some of his co-stars on The Jeffersons, but his presence added richness and depth to the tapestry of the show. Born on August 10, 1921 in Louisiana, Washington's path into acting began on the stage, where he developed a reputation for bringing authenticity to every role he touched. His background in theater gave him a strong foundation in timing, expression, and discipline qualities that carried into his television and film career. On The Jeffersons, Washington played Leroy, a recurring character who appeared sporadically yet memorably throughout the series. Though Leroy wasn't a central figure, his scenes often added humor and realism, reminding viewers that even small parts contribute to the energy of a show. Audiences appreciated the natural delivery he brought, making even limited screen time feel impactful. He embodied the kind of character actor who could take just a few lines and make them linger in the minds of fans long after the episode ended. Beyond the sitcom, Washington enjoyed a steady career across television and film. He appeared in shows such as All in the Family, Hill Street Blues, and Different Strokes, as well as movies like The Last Starfighter 1984, where he played the wise, fatherly character Otis. His versatility allowed him to move comfortably between comedy and drama, always grounding his performances in truth. While he was rarely cast as the leading man, his reliability and professionalism made him a favorite among directors and fellow actors. Colleagues often described Washington as thoughtful and grounded. He approached his roles with quiet confidence, never overshadowing the stars, but always elevating the material he was given. For many African-American actors working in the 1970s and 80s, finding consistent and respectful roles was a challenge. Washington managed to carve out a niche for himself, proving that dignity and nuance could shine even in supporting roles. Tragically, Vernon Washington's career was cut short when he suffered a fatal heart attack in June 1988, passing away in Los Angeles at the age of 68. His death was mourned by colleagues and fans who admired his steady contributions to television during a transformative era. Though his name may not be as widely remembered as the leads of the Jeffersons, those who knew his work recognized the quiet strength he brought to every project. Vernon Washington's legacy lies in the truth of his craft. He reminded audiences that no role is too small to matter, and that character actors form the backbone of great storytelling. Through Leroy and countless other roles, he left behind a body of work that continues to resonate with anyone who values sincerity on screen. Jack Fletcher. Jack Fletcher was one of those actors whose presence carried instant weight. Born on June 14, 1909 in Ohio, He grew up in an era when stage and early radio were the gateways to entertainment. His tall frame, refined manner, and deep voice naturally led him to roles of authority, judges, executives, and wealthy figures who seemed to command the room the moment he entered. By the time television became America's favorite medium, Fletcher was already well practiced in portraying the men who shaped society from the top down. On The Jeffersons, Fletcher played H.L. Whitendale, the pompous building owner who often found himself clashing with George Jefferson. As a symbol of old money and entrenched privilege, Whitendale provided the perfect contrast to George, a self-made businessman determined to claim his place among the wealthy. Fletcher delivered the role with crisp diction and a commanding aura, making every exchange with Sherman Hemsley a memorable battle of wit and ego. Fans delighted in watching George push back against Whitendale's arrogance, seeing in those scenes a comedic reflection of class tensions in America. Fletcher's work extended far beyond this role. He had a long career in television, guest starring in acclaimed series such as Perry Mason, The Twilight Zone, and Mission Impossible. His commanding screen presence often landed him parts as authority figures, roles that could have become repetitive, but which he infused with nuance and precision. Audiences may not have always remembered his name, but they recognized his face instantly, a hallmark of a reliable and skilled character actor. In addition to television, Fletcher appeared in films and theater, demonstrating his range across multiple mediums. He was the kind of performer directors relied on, always prepared, professional, and capable of giving even a minor role depth. For decades, he contributed to shaping the background fabric of American entertainment, helping to tell stories that needed figures of power, wealth, or intimidation. Sadly, Jack Fletcher passed away on February 27, 1990, in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 81. His death marked the loss of a seasoned actor, whose work often went underappreciated by the wider public, but whose colleagues and fans knew his value well. Though he rarely held leading roles, Fletcher's impact was unmistakable. Jack Fletcher's legacy endures through characters like H.L. Whitendale, who gave the Jeffersons its sharpest moments of satire. By embodying the establishment with such conviction, he provided the perfect foil for George Jefferson's ambition, ensuring the sitcom was not just funny, but socially relevant. His work reminds us that even supporting players can help define the meaning and memory of a great show. Ivor Francis. Ivor Francis was not just an actor. He was also a teacher, a mentor, and a steady hand in an industry that often felt chaotic. Born on October 26, 1918 in Toronto, Canada, Francis began acting in the 1940s, building a career that spanned stage, television, and film. His polished demeanor and thoughtful performances made him a reliable choice for roles that required intelligence and authority. Though he never became a household name, he left an indelible mark on both audiences and the actors he guided. On The Jeffersons, Francis briefly played H.L. Whitendale, the wealthy and aristocratic building owner. Even in his short time on the series, he gave the character a haughty superiority that perfectly clashed with George Jefferson's fiery energy. His portrayal highlighted the tension between old wealth and new money, using humor to expose class divides. Viewers may not have seen him as often as Sherman Hemsley or Isabel Sanford, but his crisp delivery and air of superiority added another layer to the social satire at the heart of the show. Francis's work extended far beyond the Jeffersons. Throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, he appeared in popular shows such as Happy Days, Barney Miller, All in the Family, and The Odd Couple. He often played doctors, judges, or fathers roles that demanded credibility and balance. Though rarely, the star Francis embodied the kind of working actor who could slip seamlessly into any production and make it better. His ability to play authority figures convincingly came from years of stage experience and an instinctive sense of timing. Yet perhaps Francis's greatest contribution to the entertainment world was not just his acting, but his teaching. He was a respected acting coach in Los Angeles, guiding young performers who would later go on to successful careers. Students remembered him as patient, encouraging, and deeply committed to the craft of acting. For many, his mentorship provided the confidence and skill to survive in an industry where rejection was often more common than opportunity. Sadly, Ivor Francis passed away on October 22, 1986, in Sherman Oaks, California, at the age of 67, following a heart attack. His death marked the loss of a man who not only entertained audiences, but also shaped the next generation of performers. Though he may not have achieved widespread fame, his influence extended beyond the screen through the countless students he inspired. Ivor Francis's legacy lies in his dual role as performer and teacher. As Whitendale, he gave the Jeffersons one of its sharpest adversaries, even in a brief stint. As a mentor, he ensured that his wisdom lived on through others. His story is a reminder that sometimes the greatest impact comes not from the brightest spotlight, but from the quieter work of guiding others toward their own stage. The stories of these 13 actors from the Jeffersons remind us that television is more than just entertainment. It is a reflection of progress, struggle, and culture. Their lives, often marked by both triumph and tragedy, continue to shape the way we view representation on screen. As we honor their legacies, one question remains. Did shows like The Jeffersons truly change society, or did they simply mirror a change that was already happening? Share your thoughts below, because at Legends of Black Excellence, the conversation never ends.